Alright, so this team build is going to be a lot quicker than usual because I forgot to record this and my opponent's waiting on me, so I'm going to try and go as fast as I can. Go through the opponent's team. We got more Pekko, good speed, good attack. Right, Aura Wheel gives it speed boost, so it can really start running away with speed. Thankfully, it doesn't really get any kind of setup moves. In fact, it gets no setup. I think no, it gets nasty plot. It gets nasty plot, but it gets like no setup, but it gets fast. Parting shot, thunder wave. It can do annoying things, and then 95 attack with like aura wheel is nothing to laugh at. Gets a volt switch, that kind of stuff. Combustion. This is just mini Blaziken. Still gets speed boost. Good attacking stats, still gets SD, still gets protect, right? It does all the Blaziken stuff. It's just a Combustion instead of a Blaziken. Not too worried about that because I have a lot of Fizz-Def and a lot of mons that resist Combustion, and that's not his Terra Captain. His Terra Captain is Maractus. Then we got Gramble. This thing has a really high attack stat, 120. Decent bulk with 90 HP, 70 defense, 75 defense, and Intimidate. This thing is pretty bulky and then gets all of the elemental fangs, if memory serves correctly. Yeah, it gets all the fangs, other stuff like, yeah. I think I played against a Snubble in Little Cup and it gets all the same stuff, just despicable coverage moves. Also gets Trailblaze, so something you gotta watch for. I don't think it gets Swords Dance. No, but it does get Work Up, so it can boost its attack. But, yeah. Then we got Cramorant. This thing does Cramorant things. Gulp Missile, it might be like some Endure stuff, or it might just be like defensive Defog. But Surf, I'm expecting a more defensive set on Cramorant. It's not really an offensive Pokemon. But like Endure, Gulp Missile stuff is definitely also very possible. Then we got Metang. This thing's going to be an Eviolite Merchant. This thing with Eviolite will have really good defenses, right? 100 defense, 80 speed def. You add Eviolite, and 60 HP isn't atrocious. Psychic Steel is also just a good type. Clear Body, I can't really drop any of his stats, so this thing's going to be really defensive. I think this thing gets screens. Yeah, this thing does get screens. Again, no Light Clay, but it can still set up screens. He does have Veil Aurorus, but no real way to set up... Or no, it does get Snow Warning, I'm tweaking. So he might go for that instead of screens on Metang. We got Perugly. This is probably his scariest mon. 112 speed, so literally... I don't even think it has to go... No, it does have to go Jolly to be faster than Cryo, but it can put a lot of points into other stuff other than speed because it's just that much faster than Cryogonal. And then it gets good coverage, right? You get like those returns off this thing are going to hit really hard. It gets Defiant for some reason, and then it gets coverage like Play Rough, Knock Off, that kind of stuff, Wake Up Slap, Tantrum for some reason. Then we got Vibrava. This thing is... I don't really know what this thing does, if I'm being entirely honest. It doesn't get Dragon Dance, like it doesn't get any setup. It's kind of just a Levitator, to my knowledge. I think it's just 2 immunities, which is nice to have when you have stuff like Cramorant and a big ground weakness. So I think it's just double immunity, roll condense pickup. I think that's what that was. I don't really see what it does. Then there's Aurorus, which is surprisingly bulky, good SPDF, but this thing's typing is terrible. It can't Terra, which means it's going to have multiple quad weaknesses this whole fight, and that's something I plan on exploiting. Like I said, it can go for Veil. It also gets dual screens for some reason, if it doesn't want to go Veil. But yeah, I don't really know what this thing does other than be bulky and set screens. Then there's Maractus, which is his Terra Captain, but it's in Gen 9, so it doesn't get Terra Blast. So really, it's going to have like maybe 1 water move and a bunch of grass moves. So I have a mon that's going to hardwall that. And then Swalot is basically Muck, but a little bit different. Just the bulk is distributed a little differently, and I think it gets a little bit more coverage. But basically just Muck. So if you know what my Muck does, you know what a Swalot does. Alright, now we're going to jump into my team. We got Rampardos, Show First Life Orb, 4 attacks for good coverage. Then we have Max Attack. I went for Max Defense this week because I'm not really beating much in speed. I'm not really speed creeping anything either. Like a lot of these mons aren't going to do Seed Invest or the Combustion who's going to have Speed Boost. Then we have Muck. I brought a lot of Fizz Def this week, but Muck Hardwall's Maractus because it gets no coverage to hit me. And then I just get to thug it out. Knock off just a bunch of stuff, and there's also Taunt if something just starts setting up on me. Then we got Togedemaru. This thing is offense with Spiky Shield and a little bit of defense. Zing Zap Ironhead. Ironhead hopefully catch the Aurorus. U-turn for momentum, basic Togedemaru stuff. Then we got Oricorio making its debut. We went Culberberry for knockoff Cat. Then we have Toxic Defog U-turn. So Toxic Defog, just standard defensive stuff. Then Air Slash because I didn't want to go Revelation Dance with a normal type. And then U-turn for momentum. Then we got Terra Ground Firo, running Band, Drill Peck, Drill Run, Steel Wing U-turn. Just good coverage. And then we went Terra Ground because he has a lot of stuff weak to ground that I'm clicking ground moves into. And then last but not least is Morgrem. We are Eviolites. We are just Reflect this week. No light screen. D-Gleam is our attacking move. Parting Shot, T-Wave. Pretty similar to last week. Fizzbulk. So a lot of Fizzbulk on this team because he doesn't really have many special attackers. And again, we're going to be playing around Rampardos because that's what we're going to do basically every week. So we're going to jump into the battle here and I'll let you know how it goes.